Deep in the heart of the ancient woods, where sunlight struggled to pierce the dense canopy, there existed a legend of a forest spirit, Avrada. She was the protector of the woods, a guardian whose wrath was feared by all who knew the tales. One summer, a group of reckless young men, notorious for their disrespect for nature, decided to camp in these forbidden woods. They laughed at the old legends, calling them mere superstitions meant to scare children. On their first night, they set up camp near an old oak tree. As they drank and partied, one of them, Jason, carved his name into the tree's trunk. The moment his knife pierced the bark, the wind howled, and the forest seemed to groan in pain. Ignoring the ominous signs, they continued their revelry. As midnight approached, a chilling silence fell upon the forest. One by one, the men felt an oppressive presence, like unseen eyes watching them. But they shrugged it off, attributing it to their imagination. Suddenly, the fire flickered and died. In the darkness, they heard rustling leaves and snapping branches. A whispering voice, soft yet filled with malice, echoed through the trees. "You dare defile my sanctuary?" Panic set in as they realized they were not alone. Shadows moved with unnatural speed, circling them. Jason felt a cold hand on his shoulder and turned to see a figure, a woman made of branches and leaves, her eyes glowing with a vengeful fire. "You will pay for your arrogance," she hissed. Before Jason could react, the spirit of Avrada lunged at him. His screams echoed through the forest as he was dragged into the darkness. The remaining men tried to flee, but the forest seemed to come alive, blocking their path. Vines wrapped around their ankles, tripping them. One by one, they were taken, their cries for help swallowed by the trees. By morning, the forest was silent once more. The campsite was abandoned, the only sign of the men's presence being their scattered belongings. The old oak tree stood unscathed, but if one looked closely, they could see faint marks where Jason had carved his name, now covered in fresh sap, as if the tree itself was healing. The legend of Avrada grew stronger, a warning to all who disrespected the forest. Those who dared to enter with ill intentions would face the wrath of the guardian spirit, ensuring the woods remained a sacred and untouched sanctuary. Days turned into weeks, and the story of the missing men spread through the nearby towns. Despite search parties combing the forest, no trace of them was ever found. The locals, wise to the legends, whispered among themselves about Avrada's vengeance and warned their children never to venture too deep into the woods. But not everyone believed in old legends. A group of environmentalists, hearing of the forest's mysterious power, saw an opportunity. They believed the rumors of a protective spirit could be used to rally support for conserving the woods from logging companies eager to exploit the area. Among them was Emma, a determined and pragmatic woman who had spent years fighting for nature's preservation. She assembled a team and set off into the forest, armed with cameras and recording equipment, hoping to capture evidence of the spirit's existence or at least document the area's untouched beauty. As Emma and her team trekked deeper into the woods, they felt an eerie sense of being watched. The deeper they went, the more they felt the weight of the forest's presence. Despite their unease, they pressed on, setting up camp near the same ancient oak where the young men had disappeared. That night, as they sat around their campfire, Emma recounted the legend of Avrada to her team. Skeptical laughter met her story, but a few among them, especially the older members, listened with wary eyes. The night was calm, but an uneasy silence blanketed the forest. Around midnight, Emma decided to check their cameras. As she reviewed the footage, she noticed something strange. Shadows moved in ways they shouldn't have, and faint whispers could be heard in the background, growing louder with each passing second. A sudden, chilling breeze extinguished their fire. Panic surged through the group as the oppressive darkness closed in. Emma felt a cold, creeping fear as she realized they were not alone. From the darkness emerged a figure, Avrada, more terrifying than any story had described. Her form was a twisted amalgamation of branches, leaves, and ethereal light, her eyes glowing with ancient fury. "You defy my sanctuary," she intoned, her voice a haunting echo through the trees. "You seek to use my power for your own ends." Emma stepped forward, her heart pounding. "We mean no harm. We want to protect this forest." The spirit's gaze bore into her. You speak of protection, yet you intrude. You disturb the balance. Emma dropped to her knees, feeling the weight of Avrada's judgment. Please, let us help you. Let us show the world why this forest must be preserved. For a moment, the spirit seemed to consider her words. The forest around them fell silent, holding its breath. Then, slowly, Avrada's form began to dissolve into the surrounding trees. Prove your intentions. Leave this place and spread my warning. If you return, you will face my wrath. The team packed up and left at first light, their fear replaced with a newfound respect and urgency. Back in town, Emma and her team shared their experience, using their footage to advocate for the forest protection. Their passion and the eerie evidence they presented swayed public opinion, and soon, the logging companies backed off. The forest remained a sacred sanctuary, protected by the legends and the reverence of those who had witnessed its guardian's power. And deep within its heart, Avrada watched, ensuring that those who ventured into her domain did so with respect and reverence, knowing full well the price of arrogance. Years passed, and the forest remained untouched, a testament to the power of Avrada's legend. Emma's campaign had turned the woods into a protected reserve, attracting researchers and conservationists from all over. The story of the forest spirit became a symbol of environmental preservation, inspiring a generation to respect and safeguard nature. However, not everyone was swayed by tales and warnings. A wealthy industrialist named Victor saw the forest as a goldmine of untapped resources. Dismissing the legends as mere folklore, he assembled a team of mercenaries to venture into the woods and locate areas rich in minerals and timber. Victor's team entered the forest with heavy machinery and an air of arrogance, trampling over the underbrush and marking trees for felling. As they worked, they joked about the spirit of Avrada, scoffing at the fear that had kept others at bay. But the forest did not remain silent for long. As night fell, the mercenaries set up camp and lit a large fire, its flames casting long shadows among the trees. A strange, oppressive silence settled over the area, broken only by the crackling of the fire and the occasional nervous laughter of the men. Then, the whispers began. At first, they were faint, barely audible over the crackling fire, but they grew louder, more insistent, a chorus of voices carried on the wind. The men exchanged uneasy glances, gripping their weapons tightly. Without warning, the fire flared and then extinguished, plunging the camp into darkness. Panic spread as the men fumbled for their flashlights, only to find them dead. The whispers turned into a cacophony, and shadows began to move, taking on the shapes of twisted figures. Avrada emerged from the darkness, her form more terrifying and imposing than ever. "You defile my sanctuary," she thundered, her voice shaking the trees. "You will pay the price." Victor, defiant and determined, stepped forward. "You're just a myth, a ghost story to scare children. You can't stop progress." The spirit's eyes blazed with anger. "You will learn the cost of your hubris." With a wave of her hand, the forest came alive. Vines and roots erupted from the ground, ensnaring the mercenaries and dragging them into the underbrush. Their screams echoed through the trees as they were pulled into the darkness. One by one, Victor, now terrified, tried to flee, but the forest seemed to conspire against him. Branches blocked his path, and the ground beneath his feet became treacherous. He stumbled and fell, and when he looked up, Avrada loomed over him. "You sought to exploit my domain, to take what is not yours," she said, her voice cold and final. "For that, you will never leave." Victor's screams were cut short as the forest swallowed him, the trees closing in until there was no trace left of him or his men. The next morning, the forest was calm, the signs of the night's events hidden beneath the lush greenery. The story of Victor's disappearance spread quickly, a new chapter in the legend of Avrada, serving as a stark warning to those who would dare to disrespect the sacred woods. From then on, the forest remained undisturbed, its guardianship by Avrada respected by all who knew the stories. And deep within its heart, the spirit watched, ready to defend her sanctuary against any who would threaten its peace.